Those were the times, those were the ways. So take me back, so take me back to the good old days. Looking back from here, I can see that we were blind to the burdens we would shoulder and the struggles we would find. But growing made us strong as strong can be.
This second half should last around about an hour. We are going to go into more of the social scene. We're going to be looking at the Val. We're going to be looking at the Galley. We're going to be looking at a few more pubs. We're going to look at the development of the 60s, 70s. We'll see how it goes. I think what we'll do, depending on how it goes, we will stop at 10 o'clock because I think a lot of you will want to stop and have a chat because I've already seen friendships, well, you're banned anyway, friendships forming in people that I know that I haven't seen for 30 years, which is brilliant, and this is what this is all about. Okay, so Tracy, can you be the adjudicator at the back and tell them to shut up if they're making a noise? Like Brian Taylor, just tell him shut up. If only he was this busy on the football pitch. City Sides told me to say that, Brian. Okay, we're going to make a start with the second half. Okay, this guy is named George Arthur. This guy, the video that you saw before at the carnival procession through Kidsgrove, this guy actually, he did a load of singing reels, and he has got so many. His grandson, MC Hank, contacted me, and that's the video. There's a few more that we've got, but that's a big thank you to him. So I'm just shouting this guy out for what he's actually done. As we mentioned, we've got around about 11 videos that are on YouTube, so if you've got any elderly relatives that have not seen any of these, just sign on to YouTube on your smart TV, put in Kidsgrove the Bygone Days, and there's 10, 12 videos there ready. Some starring Val and Pat, who did brilliant. But please, please, please have a look at those. The full video, the Kidsgrove the Bygone Days, the musical, it's 2 hours, so you need to be a little bit sad if you've got 2 hours to spare. But that video is out, as you can see, is had over 2,000 people viewing it. So please, please do. So I'm going to start out with the panel. The panel, do you think criminals in the 60s are worse than what they are to this day?
No, definitely not.
No?
No.
No. No. So you're saying crime was not rife in the 60s compared to as it was present day?
I think it's nowadays it's more often than not drug fueled, and I think there's a big difference with people who are on drugs than people who just break in because they're skint and poach for very reason like that. But I think it's a lot nastier, and perhaps the cinemas showing all these murders and that's going on. I think that's got something to do with it. But I think that I can't remember really any serious crimes apart from Leslie Whittle, obviously, around Kidsgrove. But and that's terrible.
Mr. Briggs, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just echo what Alan said, that we have this problem now with recreational drugs, don't we, where it's people are not having a pint of beer, they're having recreational drugs. They're costing a lot of money. They can't fund it. That leads to people robbing, shoplifting, doing what they can to get the money, to get the drugs, to pay the people who sold them. So I think it's it is a big problem, massive problem.
Okay, so that's currently, Simon, would you reflect that?
Yeah, but we didn't have knife crime then. Nothing like it. It was all fisticuffs wanted and gangs meeting up for a fight.
Okay.
Like you say, Leslie, what was probably the biggest thing?
Yeah, we'll come on to Leslie in a couple of minutes. Ladies, have you got any comments on that?
I just think you hear about more crime these days, because, you know, it's all on social media. And I think families used to keep you in check, you know. Not that I ever got in any trouble.
No, no.
You know.
I'm sure none of you in this room got into any trouble at all. Pass, was you? Okay.
Yeah, I think spot on when you say, you know, the influence of the media, TV, films. I don't know what goes on in some of the YouTube channels because I just wouldn't watch them, but I'm sure there's more awareness in young people of stuff that they don't need to be aware of.
It's
And it
interesting.
leads on to worse things, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'll come on to a bit of the 1960s as we move into the 60s. And how drugs and promiscuity was rife in the 60s that led to where we are today. But I want to draw your... This is something we picked up. Too much of the stupidity in Kidsgrove. This is 4 Kidsgrove men charged. I'll go over to here. There's too much stupidity going on in Kidsgrove. said the chairman of Pyre Hill North Magistrates, when 5 Kidsgrove men fined total of whatever guineas, Alan Ashton of William Road, Joseph Brooks, aged 18 of William Road, Mr. Duckworth of William Road.
Which one? What was his first name?
It was John Duckworth. But these are criminals. And these criminals are sat over there. Dawson, Mr. Dawson's on there as well. You are criminals.
What did they do, by the way?
They absolutely, they wrecked an old lady's garden. Joe, what did you do?
I can't tell you.
You wrecked.
We had a game of football.
You wrecked her garden.
Oh yes.
You absolutely. You are shocking. So don't blame the youth of today on what they do. You made the Sentinel. And you made the Sentinels there. Joseph Brooks, again, Ravenscliff Road. You were bad. You were absolutely bad.
I'd like to say something because later on we'll talk about a certain policeman in Kidsgrove. And I think that if he was there, they wouldn't have gone to court. He would have just smacked him around the head. Yeah. Ernie Ball would just beat the lads up and then they'd run for cover.
And we are coming on to Ernie Ball very, very shortly. You are right. Okay, so away with the gangsters and the criminals. The Val, the Rex, or the Queens. Okay, it was, I think, anybody in this room who was born from 1950 to 1965 would remember the Val. The Val closed in 1971. Sid, you can jump in.
Yeah, was the manager named, or the owner named White?
Wild.
That's it,
Wild.
yeah.
Wild. And he had the Regent. Kidsgrove, believe it or not, got 3 cinemas. They got the Regent at Butt Lane on the corner opposite One Shore. It had got another cinema opposite the railway or Aircastle pub as we know it, where Gas and Electric is above there. And it got, this is the most famous, with it being opposite Molly's that everybody had got memories of. So these are 50s, 60s, Danny Kaye, Living Doll. That's the interior looking at the Val. From the back, I got pictures from the front. Capacity in the Val, anybody have any idea? 900, not bad. 250, 300, 750.
Wow.
750 every week, every weekend would go down to the Val. Or the Queens. Couple of pictures there of how it looked. And there's the Val. And that's from the screen looking back with the balcony, as you can actually see. Stories of the Val.
Dave, when it's shut. When the valve shut, me, Johnny Lees and a few others, we managed to get in through the coal chute. The first place we went was the sweet shop. Trying to find some sweets, all we found was a penny. We went upstairs and there's reel after reel just sitting on the floor. None of us dared take any home because his parents would have smacked us. But later we'd all got torches. Later on, we all got on the stage and Johnny Lee's there. We're all dancing and Johnny fell off the stage, cut his leg wide open. So, yeah, that was one of the stories of the Val. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did the same, but I took the reel. Got nothing to do with it, I just took it.
Yeah, it was definitely a place I've heard so many memories and memoirs of people courting at the Val. Norman Tate was telling me about how many girls he used to take round the side of the Val, and it was like, it's not good, not good. But yeah, the Val cinema was something that I think if you're born in that generation, it will hold quite a few memories for you. So it was the Rex, which you said there. It ran its final reel in 1971, which it says there, when it was known as the Queen's. You used to get, if it was your birthday, you get your free passes for your birthdays and stuff like that. So, you know, it's such a shame that that's actually gone. But you know, there's a picture. I have got a separate presentation on cinemas of Kidsgrove. There's probably about 25 slides, but there's just 2 or 3 of what we've gone through. Right, we're going to go nightclubs. So I want your memories of nightclubs. And I'm going to sort nightclubs in the 1950s, 60s.
Which nightclubs?
Which nightclubs? Which nightclubs would you like me? Which nightclubs did you go to?
I went to the place once and got banned.
Hey!
Well, I went in and bloke was hitting a girl, so I hit the bloke, and then the bouncer come up and banned me.
Okay, not going to go down that line any further. But, okay, so somebody tell me, put your hand up, where's this?
Torch, yes, torch.
Ooh, that's interesting. The Adulty.
It is the Adulty, yeah.
It is the Adulty, where my mum met my dad.
I know.
So, anybody got any memory? Very posh.
Yeah, that's fair.
It is a little bit posh, you're right. But it is the Adulty. Grab a Granny. No, that was the Queen's.
That was the Adulty as well on the Thursday, which I didn't know anything about, mine.
The pub round the corner, the Mitre. If you hadn't got a tie to get in, he had a stack of ties behind the bar and used to lend you one for a certain price, so he'd bring it back the following day, or get the cost of it.
Yeah, there's stories about that, because the guy who had the Adulty, he got the Crystal in Newcastle, and he was strict on you had to wear a tie.
He did.
So yeah, there was tie merchandisers virtually outside or across the road in the pub who were doing that. But this had got 18 dance floors. 18 dance floors within the Adulty. And that's where my mum met my dad. Okay, next one. The Torch. Now, when I read the memoirs of people who've left memoirs in the Kidsgrove Library, and there's some, they're fantastic, all they talk about is drugs, sex and rock and roll, or in relation to this, Northern Soul. They talk about promiscuity, they talk about the drugs, etc., etc., etc. Now, this was one of the first places. 1964. Some say it opened in 1963, but that actually plaque says 1964. Here's a picture inside of the Torch. I don't know how many of you can actually remember that.
It didn't look a lot like that.
Go on, Ted.
Well, I went to, when it was the cinema, with my mother, watched The Student Prince.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got. Who can remember in relation to this one that we've got Afghans, we've got the flares, we've got the Baki. Well, no, 60, 67, 68 on this. But there's so much that's actually going on within this. And if any of you can remember, there was on Liverpool Road, down towards where the co-op was, on the left-hand side, there was a fashion boutique, Omar's or something along those lines, that used to sell all of this. And I've got people with memoirs on this. And it was a 1960s fashion boutique. And these are some of the things that they actually sold, other than
cannabis.
Other than the cannabis. Yeah. Anybody remember this guy?
Oh, Keith Menchel.
Keith Menchel.
Sorry, yeah.
Keith Menchel. So Keith I knew very well. I knew him from the bookies. He used to love a bet, Keith did. But I didn't realise his impact on Northern Soul and what he stood for. And we did a couple of Northern Soul nights across at the Town Hall for charity. And I never realised he was recognised across the US, across Australia. He was massive, Keith was. Absolutely massive. And he does need a special mention. And when Julie did the poll, Keith Minshall was up there in the top 10 of people most remembered for what they did for Kidsgrove. So yeah, Keith deserves. Okay, where's this? Maxime's. Absolutely brilliant. I've got to tell you this story. You know this story. I did Malcott Women's Institute. I did. I did. Average age was about 72. Fantastic. It was probably from 50 to 85, 86. And I did them a quiz. It was down at Roadeheath Village Hall. And I said, I chose nightclubs and said, where's this nightclub? So I got internal photographs of the Queen's at Basford, of the place downstairs, blah, blah. And I put this one up. And I said, where's this? And they all sort of looking at each other. And this little old lady, she was 84, absolutely, I loved it to bits, was with her best mate. It was like ab fab. And they were pissed. They were. And everybody, the chairman of the Women's Institute said, what are you laughing at, Dorothy? And she says, I lost my cherry there on that car park. I got laid for the first time on that car park. And I thought, oh, what a woman. But yeah, that's behind Maxime's. Okay, Tommy Coquelin. How at?
I was just going to say something before.
Go on then.
Well, I was going to say that there was also the Embassy Club in Burslem, but I worked at the top rank in... Did anybody ever go to the top rank in Hanley? I mean, I worked there as a bouncer for a few years, and... the thing I always remember is walking down the steps to Judy in Disguise. Can anybody remember that? Yeah. Go on, Phil.
Yeah. I worked at Maxime's for 5 years, 1970 to 76.
You did, yeah.
And this bit at the back here, it's actually a cholera pit that's been pasted over the years. But yeah, happy days there. Yeah. Roof always leaked. You wouldn't know how many times that roof leaked. But it was a potteries, wasn't it, originally? It was a pottery company.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, happy days.
What is it now? Is it flat? Care home. Yeah. Many happy days. Sammy Bowles, people will remember Sammy Bowles. People will remember Placemate. He was part of the Cheshire Cat group. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Chico's. Penny Farthing. Anybody remembers Chico's? Penny Farthing. The presentation I've actually got on the nightclubs of the past goes back to the Crystal all the way through to Valentino's, Ritzy's, etc. And I've done that. Some of you have attended those in here, to be honest, in the drop-in sessions. And I learned so much after every single one. But yeah, that's where Dorothy lost a cherry on that car park.
That was the boss.
Yeah. Okay. Who remembers Tommy Coo Club? Okay, we've got lots to remember Tommy. So
It's all right.
it's our rate. All right. So Tommy used to appear. Your team down Kidsgrove Station with Mo Salah. That is Mo Salah on the right.
Yeah.
But Tommy would be down there. He was a character. He lived on Galley's Bank, the bottom of Galley's Bank. He'd be down there, and he's such a character. Have you got any memories? Go on.
I remember, well, every day when I was going to school, he was on the bridge. And if you'd got the time, if you weren't late for school, and he'd stop you and he'd say, "Can you put the name of this train down here for me?" And you'd say, "Yeah, go on, give it me." And he'd go, 4627. I said, "Sorry, say that again." 953. Well, okay. And he'd be there for 10 minutes writing these numbers down, which meant nothing. But he was, he took a lot. Well, no, he didn't take a lot of stick. People, the kids knew him, and I was in the same class as his brother, I think. Always, obviously, the bottom class.
Obviously, the bottom class. Okay, let's move along a little bit. So, I'm going to ask Mr. Brooks on this one. So, Ernie Langford was part of Kidsgrove Athletic for over 60 years. Kidsgrove Athletic formed 1952. Ernie was president. He had several roles within this. From the early days when Kidsgrove Athletic were formed, in the Blue Bell Beer Garden, at the back of the Blue Bell, you got Ernie, you got Mr. Brooks, you got Mr. Hibbett, and I think Mr. Brown, another one. But yeah, what Ernie did for Kidsgrove Athletic was something special. Explain, Phil, the picture in the middle. What's that picture in the middle?
Picture in the middle is the opening of the Ernie Langford stand, which pictures, I don't know if those at the back are trying to get in or get out, but at the front there, from left to right, you've got the Mayor of Kidsgrove, whose name just escapes me, I do apologise. Then you've got Ernie, you've got Arthur Turner, who was secretary, and then my mother.
I didn't know that. Is that your mum?
That's my mother, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, so Ernie definitely deserves a mention today. So yeah. And like I say, when we did the most popular people that have donated or demonstrated an allegiance to Kidsgrove, Ernie was well up there, wasn't you? Yeah.
He did? Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Tell the story about Ernie Langford's brother. And we're playing away at Blackpool, and he used to come with us all the time because I was manager at Kidsgrove. And on the bus, he said, "Siddy," he says, "I've been married 50 years today." So I said, "Albert, I'll make sure that everybody gets you a drink." So I told the team at the back, I said, "Listen, it's Albert's birthday. After the match, get him a drink with you." So, of course, that was, Albert just knocked him back. And then I said to him, going back home, I said, "Albert, what's the success of 50 years of marriage?" He said, "She left me after 12 months. I never got divorced."
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, let's have a look at some dodgy photographs. Okay, so, galley photographs. Somehow Joey Brooks is in the front or in most of these photographs. And I still try and... Who's answering that? Phil, are you answering that? Or Sid, are you answering that? Joey Brooks is the best player.
At what?
Tiddlywinks.
I think the best player there is on the right, Brian Cam.
Brian Cam, BC. Brian Cam on there.
Apart from Dickie, of course, Gordon Dawson.
Alan Hughes.
Which is Dickie?
No, I'm not. On this one, on the other one, that's the better team.
Let's have a look at a few more. Let's have a look at these reprobates.
Landlord of the Royal Oak, second on the left.
Looks like Harry Enfield movie, that does.
Anybody got the Royal Oak? Well, there's the landlord, isn't he? To the second left, Neil Taylor.
That's Neil Taylor.
Neil Taylor, yeah?
Wow. Wow. New Year's Day. And you got the outdoor there, the home sales where you could go into the galley.
Jimmy's brother, Jimmy Stitt's brother, Tommy on the floor.
Yeah, Tommy. Yeah.
Well done, Jim.
There's Jimmy at the back. But yeah, and you can remember the home sales. And when I read through the memoirs or people sent me information, they've sent me pictures of a note. Please give Gail 10 Park Drive. And they used to take it in and used to be able to have the cigarettes.
They were playing rugby there, by the way.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Or attempting to play rugby.
Attempted. There's a few pictures actually. Now you said the best galley side that you ever managed.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Didn't have Joey.
No, Joey was always in the other team there.
And this is your best side.
That's the best side that the galley have had, and perhaps the best Sunday side at the time.
Joe, we beat them 1-0. You said warfare. That's 1-0 to beat.
So Mr. Hopper's giving you a bit of stick there because you weren't the best because they beat you.
No. I think everybody will know Georgie Pryor right at the back.
Yeah.
Alan Wood on the left. Kenny Bailey. Timmy Weaver. Dave Cope, who lives just down. Brian at the back there. Jimmy Potts. Paul Coates.
Stevie Moran.
Morani. There's Alan Turner. Dave Buckley. Mick Ely. Tommy Cooper at the front with Ken Wilkes. Barry Grattan sitting over there. Steve Moran.
Who's the bald-headed guy right on the top right-hand corner?
He's just visiting. He was the manager. I did everything that year. I filled the bath afterwards. I marked the pitch. I went to all the meetings. I did everything. And for Sportsman of the Year, or the Worker of the Year, they give it George Fry.
George,
I don't know. I still don't know why. I'm going to ask you.
Georgie Fry, what a legend. This is a dodgy picture. Phil Brooks, look at his hair on this. That's Phil Brooks. That's him. That's Phil there. Phil, who are these guys with you?
I have no idea. I know. Eddie the Eagle.
That's Eddie the Eagle.
Come on, Phil, tell us who these guys are.
I know the lad who's holding the cup with me is or was at that time, a Premier League referee. Sorry, First Division referee. Premier League wasn't there then. And the lad next to him coming into me is the secretary of Norton United, I think. And the bloke on the end there is nicking the cups.
So we don't know who he is.
No idea. Sorry.
We've got no idea. Okay, dodgy photos of the galley now.
That's obscene.
The galley. Look at these. Who's the guy in the middle with the boobs?
The one on the left.
No, the one right in the middle on the driver's side.
With the bald head and the sunglasses. It's me younger brother.
That's your Triumph Spitfire. You show off, Brian Taylor. Brian Taylor is showing off. That's a Spitfire. But some dodgy characters on there, they've got to be.
That's a lead in the front connection. Tim Churchill.
Timmy Churchill's on there.
Right on the end.
Yeah.
Kenny Austin, Jimmy, Alan Ashton, Kenny Bailey.
Is Joey Brooks on there?
Crowe.
No, Joey Brooks isn't on there.
Joey's in the beer garden.
Yeah, thank God for that. Okay, right, I need you boys. Okay. So, what I can gather, again, I'm a Clough Hauler, so I'm coming into the world of Mary Hill. These Blackpool trips or these football parties were legendary.
I'll take back what I said earlier on about violence.
Yeah. So one of the things that, and Sid, you might be able to help me with this, was a trip to Blackpool where Georgie Fryer and Brian Kahn ended up in A&E.
I think, well, I wasn't there in that one, but I thought that was Ghostly Hall, the Wild West Brawl.
That was the fight.
Oh, was one at Blackpool as well?
Yes.
Oh, I was, I was involved in the one at Blackpool.
George ended up in hospital, didn't he?
No.
By the time he got to Red Bull, he drank a bottle of...
Yeah. So George was involved with the brawl.
No,
By the time they left the galley and he got to Red Bull, he drank a bottle of vodka. Yeah, that's a galley. That's a galley for you.
you know the beauty of that photograph, Dave? The beauty of that photograph is that the lads on there would sit in different parts of the galley during the week and the weekend. And yet when it came to the galley trip, you were all as one. And they turned Jenkinson's bar in Talbot Square in Blackpool into the galley for an afternoon. Just amazing.
No, absolutely great memories on that, and I'm sure you guys who've been there and done it.
Yeah,
Wow.
there was one, if I can use this word, there was one that was beautifully called the Flying Turd, because it was brown. And it came, he picked us all up at the galley, drove down towards Market Street, turned round under Market Street Bridge, and it still had the skylights up. It ripped them all off. There was bits of plastic everywhere. And I said, oh, you best change the bus, mate. No chance. Adjie's Tours, they used to call it, didn't they? Steph Adjett used to do the sandwiches.
Oh, Steph's on a few of those pictures, isn't he? Bless his cotton socks.
Top bloke.
Okay, we're moving on. Okay, so we got the slack washer or the slag washer.
Slag wash.
It's a 50-50 split. So who and he calls this a slack washer? Put your hands up.
Slack washer, no.
Slack.
Slag wash.
Who calls it the slag washer? See, there's 50-50 of you again. So, yeah, we'll go with the panel. The panel say it's slag. Okay, so who can remember this?
Climb to the very top.
Climbing to the very top, and Nigel Hopper, who's not here tonight, who should have been here tonight, I got a story for him. He actually climbed to the very top and he got stuck. And the emergency services had to come out and rescue him from the top of the slag hoppers. So, Mr. Hopper, when you get home tonight, will you give him a bit of grief and say, you got a lot of stick? So you only become of age when you're a boy when you could climb up to that window. So this picture's the 1970s. Any memories, guys, ladies?
We used to get a car bonnet, drag it to the top, and just slide down on
Oh,
the
so is that on the Black Hills behind?
Yeah, that's
So it's called the Black Hills behind. You used to get a car bonnet, slide down.
Yeah,
I've got
mental.
lots of people who've
fast as
said that.
anything, yeah. Frightening. Yeah.
Just over the brook, yeah? Yeah. Yeah. We've in one of the videos we actually covered it just past Moss Cottages. Didn't you live in Moss Cottages? You were born in Moss Cottages. So yeah, that's where it. Yeah. So in one of the videos that we've done, I think it's the pit disasters, where I think a number have lost their lives in the Moss Pit disaster on Mary Hill. We actually cover that and we go down Moss Pit Lane with the guys. So if you've not seen that video, look up the pit disasters on YouTube, Kidsgrove the Bygone Days, and it's there. But yeah, I wish I'd have known about that, but I didn't. Phil, did you play on there?
Yeah, unfortunately.
You did? Si?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Ladies.
car bonnet, yeah.
Yeah, I remember pretending I was in The Sound of Music on the Black Hill, singing The Hills Are Alive. A girl can dream, can't they?
We'll get you to do a song next time, The Hills are Alive. But yeah.
The Black Hills at the back. We were coming back one night, 2 or 3 of us, and we were talking about the Kidsgrove bucket, and one of them said it was a big black dog. And as we got just down here and it was getting dark, just as we turned around, there was a big black dog on the hill. We ran. We fell in the streams as we were going down there. We saw it was the bucket.
Yeah.
And I was 36 at the time.
Okay, we'll move on. We'll move on to the galley. I need to understand from you guys. I got quite a few pictures of the galley here, and I'm going to ask all of you that drank in the galley. So I'll start with you, Si. You didn't drink in the galley.
Yeah.
You did. Best landlord or landlady?
Yeah, Derek and Olive.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So that's Derek and Olive Dutton. Is that a shout from the back? Derek and Olive Dutton. Okay, well, let's stop on that one. Mr. Brooks.
I'm going to have to go for the person who I thought helped the football team out the much pushed us forward, certainly helped us out with the disco nights. That's Keith. Yeah. Keith Bentley.
Keith and Marge Bentley.
Keith and Marge,
yeah.
Well, not Marge, but Keith.
Okay.
Yeah, not so much Marge.
Not so much Marge.
Keith Bentley was fantastic because he gave up the garage so we could build a bath to get into the PDSL Premier League and turn them into changing rooms. And we played in the ground just back of the galley, which had to be fenced off for every match. And Keith did all this for us, and he was fantastic. And he was also stayed up all night drinking as well with us, so it was good. But also, Daryl and Cynthia were very close as well. But
yeah.
I don't think Derek wasn't, not for me.
Daryl,
Miles off.
So that's Daryl and Cynthia Bettany.
Yeah.
So there's names I've got. Ladies, did you know you didn't frequent that? You were far too above. Going with. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Si, what did you say?
Derek and Olive.
Derek and Olive. So I've got on my list, I've got Mr. and Mrs. Bill Brundrett.
Yeah, they were the first, Alan Wood's father-in-law.
That was.
Yeah, they were just nice people.
Derek and Olive Dutton.
No.
I have got Mark Potts. I've got Phil Lowndes. I've got Ivy Hurst. Ivy Hurst, when she had the Bellevue, was, according to my data, she was the first woman to be landlady to be offered the galley in 1966. So I'm not sure whether she was the first landlady and she accepted this. But Ivy Hurst, she had the Bellevue. I have got Kitty the barmaid.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah.
I've got Donna Ashton barmaid, Keith and Marge Bentley, Bob and Jim.
Yes, they were good as well.
Yeah,
Bob and Jim were very good. Yeah.
Bob and Jim. Bob's probably 1980s.
Yeah.
And I, as a Clough Hauler, moving into the world of, because I originally married Mary Ella, that's one of the first pubs I went into when I got accepted. I got beat up twice in the Robin Hood. Hey-oh, yeah. But going into the galley, Bob and Jim were fantastic for me. I think
Yeah, they were.
Bob took over the Talisman down in Tunstall later before she sadly passed away with cancer. But Bob and Jim were absolutely legendary for me. Daryl and Synth Bettany, we said. Joe and Grace? No, there's shakes of the head. I hope Joe and Grace aren't in the room tonight. Deb Alcock, Rose Munro behind the bar.
Yes, great Rose, fabulous.
Yeah, I'll second
Derek's mum.
Is that Decca's mum?
Yeah, Derek Munro's mum, yeah.
Is it? Okay. Those are the names I've got there from the galley. So there are obviously special memories there. Got a few pictures. Phil Lowndes, Black Azza. I don't know who some of these are. Donegal side, I do. Again, not sure who these guys are. These are from probably late 80s, 90s. Rob Alcock,
Tony, Kate,
Pod, Tony Caton, Kev Newey, Pod, Donegal side.
It's a later time, though.
It's moving on, this is a bit. Few more.
Rob again. Yeah.
Rob again.
Jolly, Mr. Jolly,
Daz Maller,
This is
Jim,
Shep, Chimp. Michaela from the Plough.
yeah, Michaela's brilliant.
And then we come to
But did the galley in the later years turn into a bit of a drug?
yeah.
You know, is that the reason why it ended? Because druggies took over it.
yeah, we went to Mr. Q's. So when I talk to people about the demise of the galley, they say it was probably the late 90s. You know, I might be wrong. It switched to Mr. Q's before that. And a lot of the pubs went, the chain went down bank. But when you see these pictures of the demolition, it really is quite sad because it was from 1966 to this day. I think it was 2008 it was demolished. I might be wrong on that. But it is very, very sad because there was a lot of history, especially when it comes to sport. You know, you got your Andy Hamiltons of this world and the darts. You got the pigeon racing, which I touched on earlier. It is quite sad when you think about
We
it.
used to have fancy dress and tramps, balls and vickers and whatever you call them. Tarts. We had everything at the galley and it was always, there was never any trouble.
No.
In them days, in the old days.
Yeah. Okay, we're virtually in the 80s now. We haven't got many slides to go. Okay, who's on this?
Kay,
Are you on this, Kate?
yeah. On the left.
This one? The one above? So tell us about what is this about?
It was over the miners' strike,
So the miners' strike,
and we've gone on a day trip on this one. I can't actually remember where we were, but I know that's Kath Mallon next to me.
1984.
And
Kath Maller's next to you.
there's Doreen Bailey, which was my cousin's,
Doreen Bailey.
and I can't remember the names.
So this is 1984. This is the miners' strike, and this is where a support group got up in Kidsgrove, and it was called the Female Support Group, blah blah blah, and they were raising money to take the kids in 1984 to Blackpool. And this is one of the pictures. This is absolutely fantastic picture. Everybody says, see the lady with the hand up, third, after the lady with the 1984 on t-shirt. Yeah. That lady there, everybody says, I know who she is.
Is it Susan Longshaw?
Nobody can give me a name. Whitehall Avenue, did she?
John, is it Susan Longshaw? Well, Longshaw's.
Eh?
And I think Karen's further down.
Oh, one sec.
Karen Longshaw's the other one down.
What name have got you? Rigby. Married to Steve Rigby's dad. And Jack is behind her, Jules. Jack is behind her. Okay, but what a fantastic picture, and you know, it's really, really interesting and comforting for me, whereby Kidsgrove throughout the decades, going back to the 50s, was very, very much a community organisation, community spirit. There were so many community groups. I run K19. I've got Kidsgrove Core in the room tonight. Yeah, we work together. There's a Rotary Club, whatever. But it's always, always, always been something special whereby Kidsgrove come together. In the memoirs, it talks about the Golden Link. It talks about the Old Age Pensioners Association. It talks about Derby and Joan. And throughout all the memoirs, it says that Kidsgrove actually value the elderly Of all communities across Staffordshire, the one that recognises and looks after their community, their elderly community, are Kidsgrove. And that's all the way through. And it's still happening. You know, we haven't set it up. Kidsgrove Court haven't, K90 haven't. We've inherited it. And I say on one of the videos, you know, that's something that's inbuilt within Kidsgrove and the area. Okay, who remembers these? Yeah, Tesco. Premier Gardens. Premier Gardens, Tesco. So these Premier Gardens, that's Mr. Goldspink there on the left. These were built on Tesco land. These were built, and then all of a sudden, 3-4 million quid, all these houses. And all of a sudden, Tesco come in and said, knock them down, I want my superstore here. And that's what they did. So these are Premier Gardens. Yeah, 1980s. Built them, let's knock them down and build a Tesco. Absolutely ridiculous. Well, that's what happened. 3 or 4 million. Okay. We've got some sad stuff as well. You know, we've got happy stuff and good stuff and sad stuff. So we got Leslie Whittle, 1975, Bath Pool. One of our videos, we cover murders, and we cover this murder because there are so many sort of misinformation that are out there within the Kidsgrove community. If you watch our video, what I've done with the lads is actually factually correct. So I show you exactly where she was dropped off, exactly where the calls came in, and that is factually correct. So if you want to watch that, just watch that. But Leslie Whittle, 1975, Donald Nielsen, absolute nightmare of a bloke.
I was a suspect 3 times. One, because I'd worked in Madeley, where she was from, and I went and reported this. Oh yeah, I've worked there. And the other one, I'd had a white van, and any white van was at. And then the third one, they just didn't like me, so. You know, but as you know, I didn't do it.
It was so sad. Yeah. Chief Inspector Allison's here by the car on the left-hand side. Yes, so Allison, he's there. And that's where they brought the coffin out. Which a lot of people didn't realise that people said that she was dropped off down by the ski centre. She wasn't. It's literally 100 yards from where the car park is now. But yeah, but we had some other, in the 1970s, you know, Si, you've got a story.
It's the wrong year. When I didn't know it was 75, I might be getting back to, was it the Yorkshire Ripper?
No, about Joe Kinsley.
Oh, Joe, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Give us a bit of...
Oh, that was a bad day. Yeah, we were swimming in a place called Fanny Pool. And it was a red hot day. None of us was strong swimmers. Joe was a pretty big lad. And we all stripped off, went in swimming, about 6 of us. And we all got out, and Joe went in on his own and started swimming across, because we were going across that way, back, you know, to the shore. And he just kept flailing. He like the clap of his arms. He wasn't moving. He got to the middle, and he started going down. So Netta Boot went out, and she got hold of him, and he was pulling her under and flailing, and so she was running out of breath. I did the same. Couldn't get hold of him. He was just flailing and flailing. Yeah, and he drowned, and found him right on the edge of a mine shaft. If he'd have gone down there, he wouldn't have got him. So it must have been something to do with an old coal mine. Yeah, he was only, what was he, 13?
13.
Yeah, bad day.
And talking to you, when we've talked, when we've been having a beer, that's lived with you for so many years, and you remember it distinctly. It's like, you know.
A little story. I picked his mother up about, 10 years ago, and I just, in my taxi, and he goes, hello, Mrs. Kinnersley. How do you know my name? I says, I was Joe's friend. And she says, you're Simon. I goes, yeah. And I just said to her, when did Joe drown? She said, on the 13th of September, 1971. I've got one son, and he was born on the 13th of September. Isn't that weird? The hairs just stood up on the back of my neck. It's just, I'm thinking one out, one in, like. One of them, yeah. Yeah, weird.
I know. We have had tragedies across the area. You know, there's a few others. There's Jane Sim. That I'm not going to go into any detail at the moment, but there are quite a few out there that we need to remember. We need to capture, and that's some of the stuff I'm doing. And Joe Kinnersley's story is exactly one of those stories.
Yeah.
And as is this. And this one means more to me than probably anything. So, Steve Johnson, Christmas week 1990. Steve Johnson was a 20-year-old taxi driver. He was a sales manager, but he was earning money for his kids. Roxy and Deborah, his two kids. So he picked up at Chico's over in Fenton Longton. He brought them back. He dropped off in Hanley, picked somebody up from Hanley, went to Pat Moore. Pat Moore, that was his last known drop-off. But for whatever reason, Steve was asked to drive to Mount Cop. He drove to Mount Cop, up the lane. We cover it in the video, exactly the location. But he was stabbed in the neck in 1990, and he actually died of those injuries. He was able to walk 20 yards down a snow path because it was December snow. But his murderer has never been found. Somebody in Kidsgrove knows. No matter what. Go on.
I worked on that murder inquiry.
Did you?
She showed another there's a dog handler on there.
Yeah.
Searching the area. That's my brother-in-law. And then the day after I was called there, we searched the scene.
Wow.
Fingertips, everything.
Wow. It's just.
I can't say what it was.
No. I can't believe for my life that we've not actually found who the person was. There's a photo of it. There was a lady on Jubilee Field, as you go down to Rookery towards the Robin Hood, who actually stumbled across this guy. He was walking, he was blood-stained shirt. And on that following morning, and she said to him, a rough night, and he said something along the lines of, not really, blah, 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 and he walked past. But that guy must be living or lived on the miner's estate or down Gloucester Road, down towards the main road, towards Kidsgrove. So, somebody knows who that is. Now, I work with the police. For the musical, we covered this in the musical. You'd see it on the musical. I work with the police to get permission from the family to actually put out a fresh plea. But that's what we put out. The bloke was arrested in 1984, whatever. Yeah, the bloke was 1994 was arrested and put in custody, and he was never charged. He was on bail for 5 years, but they never had enough information to arrest him. But yeah, Steve Johnson, something that happened locally. Ernie Ball. Who's going to start the conversations on Ernie Ball? Come on, you've all had run-ins with Ernie Ball, surely.
Well, my running with Ernie Ball, we were at Talk Pits and we were just misbehaving as normal, just kids. And he grabbed hold of us and said, "Where you from?" Said the mine's estate. He gave us a smack there, "Don't come here again." Off we went. We didn't misbehave in Talk Pits. That's one.
Phil, you
The
got
other
anything?
the other one, if you don't mind me saying, there was a boxing match at the town hall in Kidsgrove, and a lad called Tim Churchill and myself sneaked in because we had no money. So we got in, and it was packed, but there was no seats. But Tim managed to find a seat, and he sat down and he said, "You better find a chair or something because, you know, they'll know that you sneaked in." So I stood there for a bit, and all of a sudden, the boxing stopped. So they went to the corners, and they couldn't find the seat because Tim was sitting on it. So they soon found out where it was, and we were out the front doors. Fortunately, Eddie Ball was a part of it, but he didn't get involved.
Mr. Briggs, you got anything on Ernie? Ernie was definitely a character. And if we've got more Ernie Balls around today, what a better place we would live in, for sure. That's right. So Ernie Balls. Going to finish off with the one last one. We're coming up to 10 o'clock, which is good timing. We could have got so much more into this evening, but this is the first one. We will do more because we've got so many subjects to talk about. Well, I'm finished with anything for the weekend. Freddie Bowyer. And
I actually went down my haircut by Fred.
You never had any when you were 3.
But he didn't say, "Do you want something for the weekend?" because I was too young.
Freddie Bowyer, what a character. If I'm honest, I only come into the world of Freddie Bowyer when I was doing the research. But understood that he'd do your beechwood, he'd be offering you a beech nut. He'd be offering you anything for the weekend, sir, which were obviously condoms. He was right next to Kidsgrove DIY, where the kebab house is now. He was originally where the kebab house is, and then he was upstairs pre-war. Freddie Bowyer, any stories?
Freddie Bowyer only knew one style of haircut, and that was short back and sides. And as you were walking in, people walking out, they all got the same haircut, whether they liked it or not. Yeah, you know, do me a Tony Curtis, Freddie, short back and sides. And it's just amazing, bloke, amazing.
I remember people, when we talked about Freddie in the past and some of the drop-ins, he lived up on Kinnersley Avenue in the castle. We called it the castle, where Pete Moores lived, just round the corner from, where's Julie McHugh? Where's Julie? Julie's over there, just round the corner from Julie. And that's where he lived. But I think he did at one point have a house on the Miners. I might be wrong. Certainly maybe on Everest Road. But Freddie Bowyer is, everybody smiles when you mention his name, and everybody talks about beech nut or anything for the weekend, young man. But one question I've got, obviously, did you ever go? You went there, obviously. Did he actually give you a condom?
No, he used to say, "Anything? Do you want anything for the weekend?" But that, like I say, I outgrew that and just did it myself. But,
He thought it was a balloon.
it was.
And they really weren't chewy, were they, condoms? Beech nut was a lot better.
Oh. Okay. Look, ladies and gentlemen, it's 10 o'clock, so we've finished absolutely spot on. There are probably about 300 more subjects we could cover, and I will be interested in what should we be covering in the future. This has been a trial. I can't thank you all enough for turning up tonight and taking part and actually watching, because I expected half of you walk out at half time, but no, that's really good. So I want what we've got, we have film tonight, so you've got Glenn on the camera at the back. We've got Daryl, who's been down here filming individuals. We've got Matt, who's been doing all the sounds and visuals, which are fantastic, and he's done those for free, which is, I can't thank him enough. Thanks to Trace, thanks to Jem, I think she's gone, and thanks to the Masonic for allowing us to have the room free of charge. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. To Pat, I want to say thank you to Val.
Can I have your autograph?
Hey, I want to say thank you to Alan. I want to say thank you to Phil, and thank you to Simon, our panel. These guys have volunteered, so massive thank you to these guys. Really appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Anton, born and bred in Kidsgrove. I was actually born number 21 Whitehall Avenue, in the front room. My fond memories of Kidsgrove, the fact that my dad kept ran the Continental pub, which was previously the Dolphin, up on Heathcote Street for about 4 years, and we had a fantastic time. In fact, I had pulled my first pint at the age of 6. I've carried on drinking ever since.
That's a wonderful story.
It's very true. Since that, lovely times. I lived in Kidsgrove all my life. We now live up the top of Galleys Bank, White Hill, and I love every minute. It's really been fantastic.
So you've enjoyed your night?
Enjoyed the night. That's been brilliant. We should do a lot more.
Well, thanks for being part of Kidsgrove history tonight.
No problem. And thanks very much to Dave and you lot for sorting all this out. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I believe you've enjoyed the night tonight, and you've got another memory to share with us.
I have, yeah. You mentioned Jane's when she tragically got killed in 1968, from what I can remember. She was actually my sister. I was actually probably 2 years old back then, but it was a real tragedy. I can recall my mum saving the clippets from the newspaper because she was run over by a lorry on Newchapel Road in the Rookery, and it was a horrific nightmare for my mother, and she was never the same after that. I recently lost my brother Trevor, who actually witnessed it at the time. But like I say, it was a terrible time. Her name was Jane Deverson. She was actually born on the 29th of March, 1962. So, yeah.
Sad memory, but
very,
thank you for sharing
memory.
that with us.
Yeah, I've only got 2 pictures of it at home. And I actually believe my sister Tracy, who was born in 1971, was the actual spitting image of my sister who got killed. And unfortunately, my sister died in 2020 of terminal cancer. And I still say I believe in reincarnation, and I still she was my Jane.
Thank you for sharing the memories with us tonight.
Thank you.
Walking down the avenue where we used to play, the house on the corner is still the same today as it was when we were children, innocent as innocent can be. I borrowed all your records, you borrowed mine from me. We sat and talked for hours in a box hung in a tree, and we stole your daddy's last bottle of gin. Those were the times, those were the ways. So take me back, so take me back to the good old days. Looking back from here, I can see that we were blind to the burdens we would shoulder and the struggles we would find. But growing made us strong as strong can be. Those were the times,